of the month, every chief in their location has a target. And together with the community within that location, they have a target. And in Kenya, we have over 4,000 chiefs. And so you can imagine if every chief from the 4,000 locations have an event where the villagers join hands together to do tree planting. You can imagine what a transformative process, not as victims, but as custodians of
our session today. So, Daktari, please join us at the podium with Dr. Abdi Fidar and Mr. Tonoi. Then can I have Mr. Hilary Korir of the National Treasury?
Hilary. So Brian will replace him. Hilary and Dr. Sangoro. Hilary didn't come.
Okay. May I have Dr. Sankori, please? And Brian. Brian.
So good afternoon once again. I have the pleasure of moderating the panel session, and I invite all our participants, our panelists, and it's such a pleasure to security threats such as resource-based conflicts, displacement, organized crime. How is Kenya's internal security leadership reimagining traditional security frameworks to integrate climate resilience?
Thank you, Daktari Wangari, and good afternoon, colleagues. So first of all, I'm happy to be at the second SCS here in Addis, and also to be part of this side event, just on behalf of my ministry, but also on behalf of the rest of colleagues in government. My colleague PS Ngeno is here, and the rest of the team. Now, when you look at the ministry, and more so matters security, we definitely have a number of challenges that are of security in nature. There are issues around terrorism, there are issues around armed conflicts, there are issues on banditry, but then there is also the climate-induced security, or insecurity, if you like. And that's why, for me, this event and this occasion is very significant. That we are not just addressing issues to do with climate change, but as we do that, then it also helps us to deal with matters security. And as actors in the internal security sector, the team at IGAD, you very well understand how this is significant, particularly within the member states. Now, within the ministry, and of course as a State Department, the effect of climate change, first of all, you have drought, which then also leads to to flooding. Then you end up with the challenge around resources, the resource constraints, which invariably lead to conflict between communities. When we address the issues on climate change, we also then are able to address the issues on security. And that's why we are looking at what we have as a ministry in terms of the infrastructure. How do we deal, first of all, with the effect of climate change? How do we address conflicts? How NAS have been very instrumental. We are in the process of training all the 4,000 plus chiefs. The first cohort of training has happened. And then as we deal with the conflicts that arise out of climate change, then of course the issues around early warning system. How do we mitigate or prevent future occurrences that then would lead to conflict? And this is how then we are now trying to respond to the call, particularly by His Excellency the President, on the 15 billion tree growing campaign. And we sat as a ministry and we asked ourselves, how do we then play a part in this? Appreciating that we are directly impacted by the effects of climate change. So as we build capacity among our local chiefs, we are also able then to work closely with the team at the Ministry of Environment, the team at the Ministry of Agriculture, so that then we are able to we have tree nurseries, we have chiefs who are then able to call the communities to action. And then we must also then have a way of monitoring. How do we leverage on technology? The Ministry of Environment has the Jaza MITI app, so that then we are able to constantly update that database. But besides that, at the level of the ministry, we are able to know on a monthly basis how many trees have been planted, where they've been planted. And beyond the planting then, of course, is the growing, because then we also need to ensure that every tree that is planted actually eventually grows. So far, we are seeing a success rate of 60 to 70%. We still need to do more so that then we increase the success rate, so that then we're able to address that gap. So that significantly helps us in terms of addressing not just the climate change, but also the issues around the conflict that as a result of climate change. And then, of course, use of technology. Is it Brian who has spoken to what we are working on together, but also ability to just forecast over a longer period of time. What is the situation today? 5 years from now, 1 year down the road, are we able to see if we are making an impact, and if not, how do we readjust? And maybe in the context of IGAD, we see that this becomes a very powerful tool in terms of replication across the member countries. And the bulk of the conflict that we have in the region is largely driven by climate change. In Kenya, you talk of northeastern. Then you have the neighboring countries, whether it's Somalia, whether it's Ethiopia, whether it's Uganda or South Sudan. And then how then do we also use the network that we have of these leaders who are respected? Because the chiefs, just like one of the speakers I've spoken to, they are not just administrators. They are also helping us in resolving conflict, alternative dispute resolution. And there are people who are respected from the various communities. So these are some of the interventions that we see as a ministry and, of course, as a government, that would help us address the bigger concern around climate change. So that it's not just purely an environmental issue, but it's also a security issue. If we resolve it, then we significantly address the challenges around security. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our peers, and once again, we really appreciate the leadership role you're playing in that space. And if you allow me, I'd like to now go to Dr. Abdi Fidar. From the previous presentations and even from what the PS internal security has spoken to, you can see the need and the support gap that is required by countries. So as a question to you as a leader in IGAD, what is the role of regional bodies in supporting climate action initiated by member states?
Thank you, Dr. Wangari, once again, and thank you, Dr. Raymond. I appreciate your role again in the ministry when I discuss with this out of topic, I know, but when I discuss with the Kenyans, they say the PS is very humble. Not as positive as the former PS, so I appreciate that one. The question of what the role of IGAD could be, mainly it is coordination and capacity development. We have to work with the government, but as IGAD is intergovernmental, we are part of the government, we are part of the public institutions, so we have to work with the relevant institutions and improve their capacity, technical, the policy level. We have to coordinate and harmonize as much as possible the policies of the countries, of the IGAD member states. Another important issue is data, climate data, and analysis of that data. At IGAD particularly, we have to the seasonal weather events. How will be the coming season? Will it be normal, above normal, or below normal? And then update us the season goes on. Therefore, a good example is now the GACO, we co-produce the forecast of the season with the member states, and that's not enough. We have again to forecast what will be the impact of that forecast, how that forecast will impact on agriculture sector, water sector, humanitarian sector, all those things. Therefore, again, we support member states to hold their national audit forums. Now we are doing this with Kenya. We are planning to do with Ethiopia and Somalia and other member states. So whenever they are conducting their national climate audit forums, we are supporting them. So our main role is to harmonize and coordinate and improve the technical capacity of the member states. And we encourage member states to ask us whenever they feel that there's a gap that we can fill. So thank you. So that's our main role.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdi Feder. It's been a very fruitful 1 year working with IGAD, and we look forward to more support to the work that is going on, or the climate action that is going on in Kenya. Allow me now to go to Mr. Charles Tanui. Mr. Charles Tanui works for a think tank, Irene and Acts, and he's been in the space of climate action, environment policy, and understands the funding architecture globally, regionally, and nationally. Listening to the vision that our leaders have, we clearly have a need. Many funding opportunities that have been set up, speaking of the Adaptation Fund, the Green Climate Fund, the JEF, but the 100,000 groups that are being registered by the Ministry of Interior, most of them have not been able to access this funding. Why are we missing out? What is the missing link? Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm responding on the protocol established. Maybe I can also pose a question to the delegates. Our chiefs and assistant chiefs are fundamental players in the governance and delivery of climate action and access to climate finance. that is a question that I think we'll need to fundamentally address. But let me highlight, before I introduce myself, the key important question. Africa now has submitted 4 NDCs, but the data from the Climate Policy Initiative is showing that there is extremely limited access to climate finance by most countries, with only 23% of the nationally determined contributions investment needs met as of December 2024. So just imagine 23%. And the gap is expected to widen. And you're familiar with the public finance for development cooperation is really shrinking fast. One thing also that will be compounding the situation is the uneven, and most of the funds are provided in terms of debt and not grants. Now, what are some of the aspects that we need to address? So I'm Charles Tanui. I come in as a researcher. I've been working with Wangari Kirumba for the last decade plus at the institutions she mentioned, mobilizing the global community to come to Kenya. And currently, I come in from 3 angles. I'm one of the experts, 78 experts who have been reviewing the indicators for the global goal on adaptation, courtesy of nomination by the government of Kenya, African Group of Negotiators, and the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Secondly, we are co-leading as African Research and Impact Network the development of the Status of Adaptation report that we are going to reach out to you as key informal interviews, and it's going to be adopted by the heads of state at COP 30. Now, in my academic work also, I'm studying the governance of the SDG financing. And there are 2 aspects which are very critical for developing countries. To what level are you involved in the mobilization, the designing, and allocation of the finance for development cooperation from the donor contributing countries? And I'll give a case. Recently, one of the European countries brought together the ambassadors in Europe. And I was asking the question, after that position was developed and the document taken back to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, were the comments submitted back to the ambassadors to review and look at what was missed and what was added? And the question is, you can answer for yourself. Where are we in terms of decision making at the donor contributing countries, at the allocation in terms of programs? Secondly, one of the key gap that we have observed as researchers, I know ICPAC, we have done very well through ICPAC in terms of data, climate data, and also Kenya and Mexico departments across Africa. But the question is this: how is our data ecosystem looking like? And I acknowledge and appreciate the government of Kenya and Morocco. They were the first countries to develop the open data portals. And I was asking in 2019, when His Excellency, our current president, convened the Development Partners Forum, are ministries submitting the data to that portal at a predictable manner? And what is the importance of that data system? In February, we were meeting with the investors at the OECD headquarters. The question they are asking, how will they address the risk from the investment that are posed by climate-related extremes while we don't provide up-to-date data? And particularly for IGAD, where I will kindly request that we look at the multi-hazard risk approach. We were trying to look for a fire risk modeler in Africa at some point, and we could add leakage. Now, the third contribution is, how are we positioning the chiefs and the community-based organization as the key climate finance mobilizers? Let's reflect on the Green Climate Fund. What are the provisions of the Green Climate Fund? And the National Environment Management Authorities, they can be accredited to access. But are we focusing on the component of accreditation by the Green Climate Fund, accreditation of the community-based organizations? So in reflecting on that, I'll submit before so that we can come in the conclusion aspect is that Kenya, you have set a very excellent, and Dr. Omolo and as representative of the Ministry of Interior, I must congratulate you on behalf of the researchers that you have developed a chief climate policy, and that is what we have been dreaming as African researchers, that why don't we devolve this policy framework. Thank you so much. And Wangari, you could play also a photo where we are training the chiefs in Nyakach at almost a dozen plus in terms of now action by researchers. Thank you very much for that submission.
Thank you, Tanui, and I'll be coming back to you to hear your views specifically on the Chief Climate Action Day and the groups that will be working under the chiefs, and we would love to hear from you from a research point of view, the potential and the possible pathways to ensuring that that route is comes out as a sustainable resilience pathway. Allow me to go to Brian. And Brian, I will ask you a rhetorical question. Can we achieve peace using climate action, and especially amongst the youth, using climate action as a neutral entry point?
Thank you so much, Wangari, for that
Can
question.
we use tree growing to make peace within ourselves? Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Wangari, for that question. I think I wouldn't put it as a rhetorical question, because I think what you're asking is actually what we should be discussing, because in some of these conflict zones and some of these conflict-ridden areas, it is only people coming together that could only create that kind of peace that we want to see. And so when you first brought us on board to these amazing projects that you're working under the Ministry of Interior with NCRSP, the first thing that I envisioned was what could be done and what could be achieved if all young people had one vision and one drive. And so when the president announced this amazing initiative of planting 15 billion trees, I saw it as a way of bringing people together, not just to build peace, but to also build our economies. And so where you ask yourself about peace, you also have to understand that these trees that we are growing in many times have become a source of livelihood for other people. I think from where I sit as a young person who's been very much engaged in the climate space, peace is achievable by climate action, but through this initiative that we are working on, I truly and entirely believe that these young people we have engaged through the 8,000 chiefs, 8,000 sub-chiefs and 4,000 chiefs, we are able to now bring all the people in all conflict zones to work on one common goal and to work on understanding how then do we even create other initiatives through this tree planting initiative. As I have said to you, Wangari, before, we are not just planting trees for the sake of planting trees. Our goal is to create economies from these trees. And so there are some initiatives that I don't know whether you've heard of, which are called Miti Cash. And this Miti Cash basically translates to how do we now bring in trees that are fundamental to even schools? How do we make sure that nutritional value is brought on board? How do we make sure that other people can earn a living from these trees as well? And so when you factor in all those other aspects, you realize that it's so easy for us to achieve peace by showing people that you can get so much more from something that many years has been cut down for the sake of getting money. And so I truly believe that this initiative by itself is going to bring people together, and we're going to build something stronger, and as well as sustain and safeguard our environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. And now I'll ask a question to Dr. Sangori. Dr. Sangori works for the Ministry of Housing, and you have a high-profile project, the affordable housing, and we are also aware that you have a special focus on the youth that you're bringing on board to work within that program. You could share with us how this can support building resilience in urban areas. Dr. Sangori.
Thank you, Wangari. Standing on all protocol observed, allow me to first recall our encounter with Brian and Wangari in one of the international climate conversation. And that time, I remember Wangari advising Brian to stop lamentation. Brian, if you agree, but I'm happy that you are now a champion and, you know, integrated fully in the government work and championing this with the vigor that I've seen today. Away from that, allow me also to just say that the climate change issues, we have two spaces, the rural area and the urban area. At some point, there was no urban area. We all were in a rural area. But how have we come to the urban areas? And so in the latest data and research, you realize that most of the car, coming to look for opportunities in the urban areas. And so how then do we address this? This has also put us into another corner where we get more vulnerable communities in urban spaces. So addressing that also is an issue. How do we address that? Back to your question in terms of some of the affordable housing program, I would wish to mention that, as the president has always mentioned, a house is not just, housing is not just a roof on the top of people. It is a whole ecosystem approach that, of course, bring the aspect of habitability. So part of the habitation and aspect of greening within the affordable housing schemes is an issue that then blends well with the subject matter of the conversation we have here today. And I would wish then to mention that we have, several projects running across the continent within our urban areas is something that then need, to brought into focus. From the Urban Areas and Cities Act, we have been given 4 levels of definition of urbanization, all the way from the bottom up in terms of the market centers, the towns, is that the administration in those areas, all the way from the city managers, the municipal managers, the town administrators, and the market administrators. And so that is an area that I think we can do more, and we can get synergies and, of course, supplement the work that the Ministry of Interior is already doing well, as already presented here, and we can surpass the targets that we are talking about. The last point that I would then, with the green branding principles and interfacing them into the human settlement, one of the issues is the issue of the nature-based solution. How then do we green the areas which I talked about earlier? So the strategy for this are there. I could cite some of the involvement that we're already having. For example, if we take the case of Nairobi, for example, the issue of the Nairobi River Regeneration Program, which is a whole ecosystem approach, not silo, but bringing what the conversation we are discussing here is taking into already practical actions. We have the issue of the climate works, which is drawing into the youths in numbers. Currently, we are talking of over 40,000 youths being. We also have, I think, in the next 1 or 2 months, we are going to have a whole lot of professional young people in the form of interns who range almost to the tune of 7,000. And so we are looking at how to have a programmatic approach on how these young people can adopt the tree growing trend. And this programmatic approach, we are seeing how to interface them. So I'm just saying that there's synergies that then comes with these projects that we are talking about in the affordable housing program, and also in the PET project also of the president in terms of building climate resilient with urban poor, which is a global initiative. Kenya is leading, and our president is the champion for this, and we are seeing how all these are interfacing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sangori, for the amazing work the Ministry of Housing is doing. I will not do a second round of questions because of time. I want to thank all the panelists. Charles, I'll pick up a discussion with you after here about the question I had posed. And may I, for our panelists, you may remain where you're seated. May I now invite Dr. Abdifidar to invite Dr. Raymond Omolo to give the keynote speech for this event. Thank you.
Let me use this very brief. They also answer. let me first just try to answer one of the questions you posed. At IGAD level, we have a multi-hazard platform that through which we monitor what's happening in the region, but focusing on droughts. So I know time is very, very limited, so let me welcome Dr. Raymond, our Principal Secretary, to make the remarks on behalf of the Kenya government.
Thank you, Dr. Why don't we give our panelists a big round of applause? Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, riding, of course, on all the protocols that we have had. I'm honored again to be part of this big historic gathering of the Second Africa Climate Summit here in Addis. Part of this big historic gathering of the Second Summit, also to IGAD and all our development partners for convening this timely strategic platform. The considered deliberations here transcend linear environmental discourse. Climate crisis is about human security, economic security, national security, and also environmental security. Climate crisis is definitive security challenge of our time, threatening livelihoods, fueling conflicts over scarce resources, destabilizing economies, and also undermining peace within and across our borders. Actually, earlier in the day, I was having a chat with the former Prime Minister of Ethiopia, and is now been designated as a patron of some caucus and forum that is trying to help resolve conflict in our 4 countries. That is in South Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Uganda. They've actually set up a council called the Ateker Council for. They've actually set up a and it won 10 months. First, this causes a lot of displacement, and then there are conflicts which can easily be avoided. So we are using the Council of Elders, the opinion leaders, to just find a common way of utilizing the resources. Because the truth is, actually all of these boundaries we have are very artificial. We have communities on either side. If you go to the border between Kenya and Somalia, they're basically the same communities. Now, a lot of these conflicts, just like we've been discussing this afternoon, are climate-led. Now, on behalf of my government and the people of Kenya, I want to sincerely thank all of you. We have been deliberate in institutionalizing transformative and sustainable climate action. Under the leadership of our President, His Excellency Dr. Ruto, we have established the National Climate Change Security Resilience Program that Dr. Wangari was able to give us a highlight of what it all entails. We call them the National Government Administrative Officers, who are spearheading climate action at the community level. And on a monthly basis, we've been able to come up with what we are calling the Chiefs Climate Action Day. And this falls on we foster environmental stewardship and also embedding a culture of resilience, sustainability, and collective responsibility amongst the communities. Out of this initiative, we are going to be contributing to the 15 billion National Tree Growing Restoration Campaign that was launched. It's now almost 3 years when it was launched. We barely have 7 years to achieve this. And when I was looking at the numbers, just the projections, the team from the Ministry of Environment needs to take comfort that if we do our part, we'll be able to deliver 30% of this target. So we just need to figure out how to get the balance of the 10 billion trees. And in less than a year, we have been able to mobilize 2 million Kenyans from across the country And over 6 million seedlings have already been planted with a 60% survival rate. And this has been all inbuilt without external financing. We're just leveraging on the infrastructure and, of course, the capacity of the officers in the name of chiefs that we have from across the country. What is critical in this initiative is the mitigation of climate-induced conflicts, and administrators are tasked with 3 core functions. One is to identify and mediate disputes, implement locally led restoration activities, and also apply climate intelligence to support early warning and rapid response. What makes this model truly transformative is not only the scale, but also its guiding philosophy, which rests in the following pillars. One is that climate action has to be locally owned, yet nationally coordinated. So at the national level, we're able to coordinate what is happening across the country, but then the communities must own this initiative. Number 2 is that resilience is strongest when built from the ground up, what we are calling bottom up. We begin with the villages, then we go to the locations, the wards, and eventually to the communities. And number 3 is that chiefs, with their convening power, because of the respect that they command from the communities, they're able to have access to a lot of intelligence network, just like our presenter shared with us earlier on. He referred to it as Safaricom Plus. And the fact that they are trusted, they become the link between the citizens. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, our collaboration with IGAD and ICPAC has been instrumental in advancing this journey, and that together we are training our officers through a specialized climate peace and security curriculum, and equally equipping them with tools such as the Digital Decision Support Framework, which is a national dashboard that allows the chiefs to report and monitor climate actions in real time through the simple USSD mobile platform. The message that Kenyans are bringing to this summit this afternoon is simple yet urgent, that financing climate security solutions at the community level yields triple dividends. Peace, resilience, as well as has given us very valuable insights into how we can be able to tap into the various financing mechanisms that exist. Our tested model is proving that utilization of the existing administrative community structures is most sustainable and predictable. We've not had to create new structures afresh. We've just leveraged on what has existed over the years and what is actually working. It is therefore urgent for us as governments, development partners, financiers, and the private sector to invest in grassroots climate leadership. We must equip our local communities with the resources, the tools, and the trust that they need to be able to safeguard their environment so that then they secure their future. And this, for me, speaks to the role of the youth that we have in the continent, that under reliable to be able will not be won in boardrooms or in policy forums alone. We must be able to go to our villages to form this resilience into a reality. Together, let's make climate security a governance imperative, the foundation of a peaceful, safe, and prosperous continent. God bless Africa. Thank you.
Kindly, may I invite us to appreciate the keynote speech by Dr. Raymond Omolo. Thank you so much, sir, for your very visionary leadership. We really appreciate you as one of our leaders. I now want to invite the dignitaries for a photo session for listening to us. and invite all of us that the next time you're in Kenya, as long as you are there in the first Friday of the month, please look around what your chief is doing and participate in that event and plant a tree. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming. Dignitaries, you're invited right in front of the flags to take a photo.
and it's the last session, so people are also running up and down just to see if they can catch whatever is left before they leave Addis. So unfortunately, our time is quite much spent, so I'll cut down my speech and probably invite our moderator, who will also welcome all the speakers, introduce them as well, and also set the scene for our discussion today. So over to you, Dr. Titiki.
And I'll be also make a kind of opening remark to set the session. Ladies and gentlemen,